Hey there. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, let me just switch to my Bluetooth headset. 1 second.
No problem. I'm setting stuff up here myself.
Okay, that's better. So I'm doing my Bluetooth headset. Show background.
I'm gonna check one thing here too and see if you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm going to try one quick thing, make sure that you can still hear me. Um, Let me know
Okay.
if you can still hear me. I have to do this 1 second. Microphone would be. Can you still hear me now?
Yeah, still can hear you.
You can still hear me. Okay. Does it sound fine? As equally good? Sounds okay.
Yeah, sounds fine to me.
Okay. I'll show you how we can get it. Hey, Mark, by the way. Can you hear me okay, Mark?
Hi.
Hey.
Mark, I think you mute. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah. 1 second. Let me.
So I've got
Hi. Hi, Jeff.
yeah,
Hi, Alvin.
I've got it.
Hey, how's it going, Mark? Yeah.
Okay.
I'll show you a little bit here. I can show you how I'm going to kind of do this just to test it out. But generally, what I do is I use OBS for all of my video stuff for when I'm teaching, and I think it'll work well for this. So generally, um, I'll be able to switch my video, but it's if you can make it, if it works okay, it works if people can just pin my video instead of switching to like presentation mode. Because in presentation mode, then I gotta choose a window to present when I just really want to edit my video feed. Would that work okay? If you just tell, like, if people just either pin my video or have it on so whoever's talking, then they would see me anyway. So it would be like this. And I have like the different documents, and I'm gonna go through stuff. Um,
I think that looks neat.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
good actually. Yeah.
it should work out pretty well. This is how I do my my classes basically. Um, and I created a bit.ly for this Google Doc. And I figured, like, as things came up throughout the talk, if people went to that, then I could paste links into there for reference. So if they wanted to go, if I mentioned something and people want to be able to access it, I'll just paste it in there and keep this as like sort of a an accessible notepad so that people can get to things that I'm talking about if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, we can also as well because if you put into the Zoom chat as well, the chat is saved, so I can also access the chat after the recording.
I wonder if there's some Zoom thing going on. I always look like I'm frozen because I don't move, but that's different.
Well, I think we could go ahead and do our announcement.
Yeah, let's go.
Coming
Let's go ahead and do that. Yep. So, okay, great. So let's go ahead and start. Started the recording. Sorry, it looks like someone raised a hand. You want to maybe write in the chat? Okay, but anyway, so thank you everyone for coming this evening to our ACM Chicago and IEEE Computer Science Chicago and Mid-America Club IT Connect event. So this evening we have Jeff Solon, who is going to be coming back shortly. And he will be talking about a collaborative digital fabrication project with Chicago high school students. And he is a teacher at Lane Tech High School in Chicago. All right. Okay. So for IEEE Computer Society Chicago, so there might be some particular members that are here from that society. So if you don't know this society, it's the Chicago chapter of the IEEE Computer Society. So the Computer Society of IEEE is kind of similar to ACM. They do a lot of similar types of computing topics. So that's the reason why ACM and IEEE have combined together to give you this these webinars during this time. Basically, we hold quarterly meetings on topics that deal with software, with hardware, computing, AI. Sorry, Mark, can you let me just mute you for a second. Mute. Okay, good. All right, so yes, so like I said, we hold quarterly meetings on topics dealing with software, hardware, computing. We talk about stuff with AI, big data, cloud computing, and cybersecurity. So I am the chair of this Computer Society chapter, and our vice chair is Gina Martinez from Lewis University. Here are the contact information for our IEEE Chicago Computer Society. So it's IEEEchicago.org/CS. We have a Facebook page. We're also on Twitter and LinkedIn. And if you want to become an IEEE Computer Society member, you can go to computer.org/membership/join. So let everybody know that this is being recorded. So at the end of this webinar, everyone who has registered will receive a link to the recording, and as well as the link towards the slides. And if you do need a professional development hour, if you're going for your professional engineering license and you need to have a PDH hour, that will also be provided to you as well to fill out if you need that. We also want to welcome members, if there are any members here this evening from the Mid-America IT Connect group. So basically, Mid-America Club is a private club in Chicago. It's on the 80th floor of the Aon building. And basically, this club, it's an exclusive club. They have, particular meetings. They also have, the food there for members. It's like a business club. And usually, if we're not in this pandemic, we will hold meetings there. And we've had meetings there in the past too as well. So our last meeting was, I believe, like in February of last year, so before the pandemic started. And of course, with Mid-America IT Club, we also do the same thing. So we also talk about similar topics too as well. Hence the reason why, since it's virtual, all three groups are combined here together. So the chair of this club is Vijay Konkamala, and I am the vice chair. You want more information, we have our web, Facebook, and Instagram there. And ACM Chicago. So I'm sure many of you here received this event from the ACM Chicago meetup group. So for those who don't know ACM Chicago, just a brief kind of a recap here. So we're the Chicago chapter of Association of Computing Machinery. So we usually hold monthly meetings on computing. I'm the chair, Alvin Chin, and we also have here, you can see in your panelist window, we have our vice chair, Mark Temkin. So Mark, maybe you can raise your hand. So we have Mark, yep. And then we also have our treasurer, Greg Newmark. And ACM Chicago has been for at least, I think, more than, 20 years or so? 25 years, 30 years, something like that?
50.
More than 50.
So it's been quite a long time here with more than 50. Oh, wait, there you go. So we have half a century.
Prehistoric.
In Chicago. So long history, rooted history. Yes. Okay, so we also have our website, chicagoacm.org. So you might have received our meetup from there. Like I said, we have our meetup page. So we host the stuff there on Meetup. So meetup.com/acm-chicago. We also have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We also have a YouTube channel. So if you missed any of our previous webinars and events, then you can go to this channel. And we will provide this also at the end when we send an email to everybody. So all the stuff will be provided there. If you want to become an ACM member, you can go to acm.org/membership. If you become an ACM member, you can get discounts to go to ACM conferences, which have publications of papers. So if you're in the academic field or so, and you want to get access to cutting edge, research, then you can become an ACM member and get access to those particular publications and so forth. Okay, so I'm now going to turn it to our Vice Chair, Mark, to go ahead and talk about our future presentations that will be coming up. And then he will then go ahead and present our feature presentation. So Mark, go ahead.
Okay. So next month on March 17th, we have Volker Muller, who has a very different subject, which is called computational opportunities at the digital physical interface. And there's longer, but you can read it on our site. And what this is about is taking automation to the next stage in construction. We've seen it in being used in software for architecture. This is going to be where construction robots and other physical automation will be actually used on construction sites in the future. And so I think that'll be a really, that's something that is definitely a futuristic view, but it's coming. So if you want to know what's coming, please attend that upcoming meeting. And by the way, both Volker and our next speaker the following month are both members of the audience that we found that became speakers. And Volker's a longtime ACM person. He led a chapter in North Carolina and has done a lot of presentations. So please come to that. And there's Melissa Romeley's picture. She's from SDL in California. And she's going to be giving a talk on natural language, which is, so this is going to be natural language processing and computational creativity, how computers can help you write a better story. And we'll have more details about that in the coming weeks, but we hope you can attend that meeting, which is also on April 21st. So move on to the next slide. And so for tonight, our speaker tonight is Jeff Solon. And Jeff was a person that I met. I found him when I was looking for audience members for a presentation that we were giving near his former school, Northside College Prep. And so Jeff and I have known each other for about, since that time, about 2005 or 6. And he's given talks for the group before. It's been a while. And he's a great speaker, and we're looking forward to it. So let's have a lot of virtual applause for our speaker tonight, Jeff Solon.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. For anybody that's here, you don't need to adjust your settings. This is really what I look like. And my glasses are really this orange. So I don't think my parents are here, but if they were, my mom would tell you that I should immediately shave my beard and take off my glasses. So anyway, thanks for joining. The way I'm going to do this is switch to, let's see. So I think, Mark, I think you need to, is that still presenting your slides? Can you hear me, Mark? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so I just see you now. I've pinned your picture and I see it full screen.
Okay. So what you'll probably want to do is I'm going to be using OBS, like a video management system. So instead of presenting my screen, everything I'm going to be doing is my actual video, like how it would be just like what you're seeing right now. So for example, I'm going to be doing stuff like this so that you can see, I'll be able to talk through things and share things on my screen, but I'll be on there with it. So for the course of the presentation, you might want to just either pin my video, or if you don't want to see me or the project, well, you'd be in a be weird to be here. But if you, you can basically just pin my video or have it on set on active speaker, and that'll keep me on here. This bit.ly URL, I just figured I would throw it up here. I can put it in the chat as well. Let's see. So that bit.ly is just a link to this Google Doc, and I figure as things come up, if people want me to throw references or links to things that come up in the conversation, I'll just add it to this. So it's just kind of like a shared notepad where I can drop some links in for you, and you can reference it later if you want. So it's just bit.ly/SolonCamp. All right. So I'm gonna start. I'll just give a little brief introduction. Not too much because we don't have a whole lot of time, but I teach at Lane Tech College Prep High School. I've been a Chicago public school teacher for this is my 19th year now. And I was an industry first, left through a scholarship program at Northwestern and Golden Apple, and then got into teaching, and I just never looked back on it. I've just really enjoyed being a teacher over the years. So I taught for 11 years at Northside College Prep High School, helped build up a computer science program there with a couple other wonderful people, and then came to Lane Tech to do something similar. Build up a much more substantial computer science program, something of the likes that we were hoping hadn't been seen before. And I think we've done a pretty cool job. We have 13 full-time CS teachers now. We have 13 computer science courses at Lane. And we have about 2,000 students. So Lane Tech is one of the biggest high schools I've heard it's the biggest high school under one roof in the country. There's about 4,600 students in one building. So those of you in Chicago have surely seen it. It's at Addison Western, but looks like kind of a Hogwarts castle. It's a beautiful building, and we've built up a really beautiful computer science program there. So the project I'm going to be highlighting tonight, under the teachers tab here, I can actually add this to the doc. Our site, if you want it, is cs.lanetech.org. One of the teachers in our department is Amy Wozniak. She was co-teaches the course with me, or teaches sections of the course also that I teach, Innovation and Creation Lab, that this project came from. And so this was not only a collaboration with the students, but it was also a collaboration with Amy. So Amy had 2 sections of the course and I had 3. And so we did this project together. And if you ever want to learn more about our program, you can click on courses and you can see these different, there's little videos we've done to bring students and families into the class and kind of get an idea of what we teach, and explanations of it there. One of the things that happened soon after I got to Lane was I just really wanted to bring aspects of digital. Well, I started learning about making and the idea of making, and I thought I wanted to get some making into my computer science classes, some hands-on type stuff in an environment where it wasn't typical. Like most computer science classes, you don't think about using your hands, you think about just using a computer. So I'm gonna fast forward this pretty quickly, but we ended up, I went to my boss, or my assistant principal, one of my bosses, and my buddy Dan Law at the school, and talked about how we could possibly, this is my first year there, talked about how we could possibly build or add some digital fabrication type stuff to the computer science classroom. And coincidentally, there was a time, at this time, they were looking for something interesting to do with a large space. It was an old cafeteria. If you go back far enough, it was an old foundry. So there were 2 foundries at Lane Tech. One was an oil-based and one was a water-based foundry. And the room that I'm in used to be a water-based foundry. And the school's been around for 100 years. And so the idea, it become a cafeteria and then just a sort of a testing facility and other stuff. And so Demir had commented that he was thinking about what we could do with this space. And so fast forward again, it came up that how about we design and build a maker space and sort of gut the whole place and turn it into like a maker space for the school, and then a class around it, and then I would be able to teach in the lab. And so that happened. And if you on our site under spaces, there's LT Maker Lab. That's the name of the lab. And on here it describes a little bit about the lab, and it's actually a really cool project one of the students did. And there's some information about what the space is about on there. And so I'm gonna kind of breeze through that. But if you're interested in more on the space, you can also go to ltmakers.org. Show you here. So ltmakers.org is like the site for the actual lab itself, and talks about some of the there's links to some of the press and that we've had on different projects that we've done, some high profile projects with Wrigley Field and the Cubs and the Array of Things in Chicago and some other stuff. So there's more on the lab there. Let me go back to this a little bit. Under the lab in action, it's a photo album, which brings you to this. And this just shows it's one big photo album that I've been kind of putting together over 7 years of teaching in the lab. So there's videos and pictures of student projects. And if anybody from Chicago here, or even if not, you might know Peter Sagal. He's a friend of the department and has done a lot to help us out. And some other project stuff that has happened throughout the course of the lab. So that's there if you want to check out more on that. And I'm going to sort of transition into the actual thing you're here to talk about. So I'm going to give some background to the background first. So the background of the background is the first sort of iteration of a project similar to this that I did was called the Chicago Flag Mosaic Project. And it got a lot of buzz, which was really fun. I had never written a blog piece before. I've written two, this one and then the one that I'm talking about tonight. The idea for this was to just do some sort of cool creative project that all of the students could work on together and sort of have a part of. So one larger project, but everybody kind of works on a piece of it. That was the initial idea. And as the Chicagoans here will know, Chicago is very iconographic, or iconography is a big thing in Chicago, and people relate a lot to visual references to the city. Sometimes it's the skyline, Chicago flag, the Chicago Star, that kind of stuff. And so what I wanted to do was make something out of the Chicago flag. And so I thought, all right, what if I chop it all up into, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. So what if I chop it all up into squares? There's 126 squares in there. And I thought, okay, I could give each kid a square and go from there. And I realized that there's probably gonna be some variation in the colors. If I tell them, make sure this is blue and this is white and this is red, and then let them go from there, there'd be some variation. And so I kind of mocked this up just to see, does it really still look like the Chicago flag? And after doing this mock-up, I decided, yeah, it does. And then began the project. So it turned out really cool. I could give a whole talk on it, which I won't do right now, but because I'm focusing on a different project, but this was the sort of impetus behind this type of project in the lab. And so students use the digital fabrication tools of the lab. And when I say that, I mean 3D, mostly other stuff than this, but mostly 3D printers, 3D carvers like CNC mills, digital vinyl cutters or vinyl cutters, and laser cutters. Those are like sort of the big tools in the lab that we have. And so students were assigned main tools, and then they did these wonderful projects. And what's one of the fascinating things about this kind of project is not all of them are great. When you stand back, you'll see in a second what the whole project looks like. It looks really cool, but it's cool as its own project, but then you can dive in and there's 126 smaller projects that you can get embedded in. And there's a story behind everyone and all this really cool stuff. So what you can kind of notice if you look through these, right in the middle here is the Eiffel Tower. And so you might think, why is the Eiffel Tower in a mosaic about Chicago? And the answer is because some seniors are really lazy, and some seniors are like checked out, or they got senioritis real bad, and this is the end of the year project, keep in mind. So this is the end of their senior year. And some kids just downloaded, well, this kid just downloaded an Eiffel Tower, didn't make anything, didn't custom design anything, was just like, I'm going to throw an Eiffel Tower in there. So it's very un-Chicago related. Over here, you can see just somebody downloaded music notes and guitars, and it looks cool, but they didn't actually create, some of those models aren't created by the students. But then you've got other things, like everything you see actually on the screen right now, completely student created from scratch, even though this is Navy Pier here, these little towers representing water, and this was all custom modeled and all done by the students. This bumblebee, and this was a 3D scan of a student's face, and laser cut his goggles his glasses. And so a large majority of this stuff is all custom designed and made by designed and fabricated by the students. There's the Eiffel Tower again. Next to a really cool just series of laser cut acrylic to create water. Okay, so I don't want to talk too much about this project. So that project is what kind of led to the next one. This is the overall flag, what it looked like. And on my Medium page, there's, I can put it in here. It's just jeffsolon.medium.com. There you can see the story about the rest of the story about this that I pulled up, and learn more about that project if you're interested. This went on, it was on display at Navy Pier for 8 months, and then it went to the Museum of Science and Industry, and it's been there for about 3 years. It's been on display in the group entrance, and then it's going to be moved to a new display that's part of their Fab Lab at the museum. So really cool stuff. So that brings us to what this project is. So this project, I called it the Community Area Map Project, which conveniently spelled out camp. No reference to any other camp, but it fit well. And I wrote another blog piece, and so that's what sort of brought us to where we are now. So I'm not going to just obviously read this whole thing, but I'll use this as a little bit of a template for my presentation today, and talk about sort of what I was looking to do. So I had a little bit of felt a little bit of not pressure, but just wanting to do something really cool and something that was impactful and like sort of a large scale project with the students. And I felt like it went really well with the flag, so I was nervous about sort of, I don't know, reaching the bar that had been set, I guess. And the main things I really wanted in a project were these things. So civic engagement, collaboration, again, Chicago, just like working with Chicago kids, I love doing so much. I even sort of eat my own dog food with this. I have 2 kids. Sunshine is 18 and Milo is 14. Sunshine's a senior at Lane. Milo's a freshman at Lane. And so I really, not only my own, but I just like really enjoy working with Chicago kids. And so I wanted there to be some sort of like student agency, and so that kids could feel like they're part of something big. I wanted there to be civic engagement, so they felt like they were involved with their city. And I wanted students to have an experience that helped them learn outside of what they were used to, outside of their bubbles, whatever those bubbles might be, whether it's their friend group or their neighborhood or their communities. I wanted them to kind of learn about each other and about sort of the world of Chicago outside of that. And I wanted them to use digital design and fabrication skills that we had learned throughout the year. And so we go through different smaller projects using all these different tools and then put it all together into some final project. And that was this. And so those that know me know that I'm kind of into Rubik's Cubes. This kind of started by, I mentioned it up here, but a friend and often collaborator, and just overall wonderfully brilliant woman named Gabe Lyon, who ran the education team at the Chicago Architecture Foundation at the time that we did this. She was the brains and the organizer behind the No Small Plans project. And so if you go back a little ways a while ago to around 1911, 1909, 1911, there was a required textbook in middle school called the Wacker Manual. And it was about civic engagement, but it was about Daniel Burnham and Edward Bennett's plan for Chicago. Says here, championed by Charles Wacker, and this became this sort of required textbook for junior high school students in Chicago in the early 1920s, and it went for about 20 years. And so Gabe and her team decided to sort of re-envision No Small Plans as a graphic novel, and that re-envision the Wacker Manual as a graphic novel, and that became No Small Plans. And No Small Plans is this story. There's 3 main chapters in it, and it goes like a group of teens in 1928, 2017, which was current at the time of the book, and 2211. And the idea is like them sort of going through the city and learning about their city, and kind of learning about city building and community and all these really, really cool things. And not only do they have that, but they had a reader toolkit, resources for educators, and all kinds of good stuff to use. And so they did a Kickstarter, and part of the Kickstarter was to get sets of these books out to teachers in Chicago public schools for free, so they could use them in their classes. And my daughter actually, when one of her I can't remember which class it was, but one of her classes read the book and evaluated it and talked about it. And I thought maybe I could do something with this book too, especially being such a big fan of Gabe's and the whole project in general. And so I signed up for the Kickstarter, applied for it, and was able to get these books. And I'm going to go back to the presentation here. I was kind of sitting there by the lake, a really pretty lake up in northern Michigan called Glen Lake, and just kind of sitting there with a drink and a Rubik's Cube and reading the book. And when I got to this picture, I started thinking about how this could turn into a project for my students, and seeing all these kids kind of playing with these big pieces of maps like this is what really kind of sparked the initial idea. So learning about this a little bit, one thing we learned was there are actually no legitimate neighborhoods in Chicago. This was new to me. There are neighborhoods, and people definitely identify with these different communities in their neighborhoods, but neighborhoods are basically social constructs, and boundaries of neighborhoods are not formalized. They're set by all kinds of things, anything from real estate to the community within it. I live in Bucktown. If you ask somebody what the exact boundaries of Bucktown are, you might get a few different answers, especially where it borders Wicker Park. And the interesting thing is that kind of everybody is wrong. There are no specifically defined boundaries for neighborhoods of Chicago, but what there are is 77 very specifically defined community areas of Chicago. And this is covered in a few different things that were really helpful in this project. This is a little piece from the Encyclopedia of Chicago, but there's a book called The Chicago 77, and basically got this information from there. So at the University of Chicago in the 1920s, they created these 77 defined community areas, and then there were 2 additions after the 1920s, number 76, number 77, which are O'Hare in the 1950s, and Edgewater from Uptown CCA in 1980, like an annexing. So that was new to me, but we had to have some kind of defined area of Chicago to work with, and neighborhoods seemed like the right thing at first, and then realized that community areas might be a better approach. So, and then I just started writing down notes, and there's my actual notes there. And if you can read my handwriting, kudos. I can barely do it, but you can check that out on this page sometime. And we got into like, how are we going to do this actual project? And so what I want to show you first is this is a sort of a general framework of lesson plans that I came up with. Basically like a sequence of having kids discuss, and there are a few things that went in logistically, like learning about different community areas and how we were going to do that, reading the No Small Plans book and being able to discuss it and apply it to the overall project, and discuss different aspects of the book, how to assign the community areas to different students, how to make sure that the digital fabrication tools were well covered. Zoom in on the lesson plans, a couple steps. Yeah. So I can zoom in here. You can even see, like, I think sometimes in here, I'll even say stuff. I'll even like write to myself and be like, I think I'll do this, or I don't really know, and I kind of wing it. Like I even have a question for myself in here. But basically how many students we had, 144 students for this project. How do we assign 77 kids to seven, and would there be solo kids? Would there be groups of 3, and how we would do this? Actually, so let's see, we need 77 groups, no more or less. We had 115 kids, it looks like, across 4 sections. That's right. My bad. So that year, Amy taught 1 section, I taught 3, and then the next year, Amy, we had an extra section, 2 sections, and we've been like that now, moving forward. So 5 sections, but at this time it was 4 sections, so about 115 kids. So distributing the books, asking questions, having kids, this was like sort of a rough sketch. And then if you, not that part yet, let me go back to here. So part of what we did was this activity that Gabe shared with me called Vote with Your Feet. And so what we did is, up on the wall, we projected these questions, basically. I live on the south side, north side, east side, west side, and we would put this up and have the students like physically move to that side of the room. So that's where the idea of vote with your feet comes, and have them move around. And this was just sort of like a conversation starter. We showed the 77 community areas here. Let me see if, I don't know if it'll let me zoom in. Yeah, it does a little bit. Seeing what kids know or what they understand about wards. A lot of kids just don't, they're not thinking about that yet. They don't know what ward they live in. And what neighborhood maybe or where they live, and then maybe if they feel like their neighborhood is a good place to live. And some of the impetus behind this was like getting kids to realize that their lived experiences might be very different than other lived experiences of students that are in the class, and different than other lived experiences of students or people just in general across the city. So somebody might live in a very like affluent area and feel like that's the world they know, and Chicago could be very bubbled. And so a student might be like, everybody loves their neighborhood, everybody talks about the neighborhood, there's flags up and all this stuff and signs and garden walks and all these things. And then other people might feel like, I don't know, my neighborhood doesn't feel very safe to me, or doesn't feel like a very good place to live, or I'm looking forward to moving out of it, or and we can't take away from anybody's experience, right? Everybody has their own experiences, their own lived experiences from the different communities that they're a part of, and neighborhoods being one of them, and community areas being one of them. So, and how they get their news through friends, neighbors, other places. So we did this vote with your feet activity, and it was a really good conversation starter. And then we read No Small Plans, and also the Chicago 77, which is the sort of book that covered interesting things about each of the community areas. So they had that as a little bit of a research tool. And what I'll do is I'm going to show you this. Switch over here in a second. These are students just kind of, you can see reading through the book, and they were basically putting sticky notes on different pages about things that they wanted to discuss, and kind of went from there. And we used a random number generator to generate who would be in which community, or who would be assigned which community area. And once we did that, I had to also make sure, I want to make sure that no student got their own community area. So I was looking for them to be honest. The kids are honest generally. And so I didn't want any student to cover and learn about their own area. I wanted them to learn about something new. So let me show you this here. So this is the document that we gave out to the students for doing some general research, and we had some guiding questions for them, which you can see right here. So guiding questions, just what do you know about it before getting going? Did reading those small plans influence you at all? Has your community area been affected by the things that we talked about in our vote with your feet discussions, like growth and decline, gentrification, rejuvenation, poverty, like all these things that play into these different community areas? Through their lived experience, has any of this stuff happened, or have they seen any of these things happen? Are there any important landmarks in their area, or things that people identify with? And you'll see in the final project that covered all kinds of cool stuff, from donut shops to coffee shops to like food places and all kinds of other really cool things. So are there controversial elements? And there were some places that had things like areas that were known for being very racist, rioting, like all kinds of stuff that can be hard to talk about and hard for students to talk about. And is there a concentration of cultural groups? We know Chicago as being a fairly segregated city, one of the most segregated cities in the country. So are there like a cultural or racial or different kinds of communities that are heavily represented where you live, or where you're from, or the one you're learning about? And are there yeah, okay, so for the sake of time, I'm going to scroll down, but this was all the students went to their assigned kind of cells in here and answered these questions. And this was our first level of research. I'll scroll down. There's one I saw that I could highlight. I mean, this is like a many page document. So obviously there's no time to go through it, nor would you want to sit through that, but I'm going to scroll down to one. There it is. So stuff like this, like students are pretty honest about what they were learning. So what do you know about your assigned community area? Nothing. Didn't even know where it was located. So totally legit from a lot of kids. It says that the book was only helpful really for them in elaborating a bit on gentrification and inspiring change. Then you see what are some important landmarks. An old horse race track called the Diamond Racetrack. I never would have known about that. I'm sure the student didn't know about that. Landmarks, any controversial elements about their community area. This is an interesting way to see how kids think about stuff. So you've got here, this right here. If you do, what places would you go to in that community area to speak to people in person? And Ignite is like a gaming place there. So like a kid's thinking, I'd go to the gaming place to talk to people. One thing I sort of forgot to mention, in the initial plans for this, my original idea was to get kids paired up with students from those community areas, from all 77 community areas, and use them as sort of like an expert in the area and somebody to like interview and research with and talk to. And it became just logistically, it just wasn't going to work out. It was too hard to organize that level of collaboration across schools all over the city in the time frame that we were looking at. So it was something I was really interested in doing, but it didn't really come to fruition. What we ended up doing then, and in this part, this shows I basically bought a vector map of Chicago to get the actual like digital vectors of all the community areas, and handed that out to the students so that, or we did, Amy and I did, so that we could, so the students could isolate their particular piece and not change the size of it, because we needed this to all fit together proportionally. So students would find their particular thing, basically delete everything else around it, and then hone in on just doing their particular piece. There was where is it? This was I'll breeze over this too. This was just these were questions, guiding questions that we got from the Reader's Toolkit from No Small Plans, what the students should think about when they were reading the book. So they had this sort of sheet to look at and ask questions and talk in small groups about the reading that they were doing. This document is like the student-facing project details document where we put everything that the kids need to know about, what the requirements are, where they can get their files and all that kind of stuff. This would get boring to go into too much detail, but there's the like identifying where all these areas are and getting their community numbers and all the like sort of inner workings of the project and working with over 100 students on one thing. And the overall idea was at the end, we wanted students to write basically a one-pager about what they designed and what they made. And I don't know if this will happen. It's something that I've thought about a lot. And this was one of the initial ideas, was that maybe one day we could make pictures on make a book and put pictures on one side, like the picture on one side, and then the one pager on the other side, the story about that picture. So every time you turn the page, you've got a picture and a story about that. So it would be, like 77 different sets, and that the students would all be the authors of the book and legitimately noted as the authors of the book. And then we would be able to sell it. It could be a coffee table book or something, and then use that money to fund additional projects and resources and opportunities for our students at Lane. So I don't know what will happen with that yet. I'm going to show you one of the write-ups in a minute, but that's sort of sitting there unedited, and I haven't been able to look through it yet, or haven't been able to do something with it quite yet. So in the let me go back to here. So these are sort of some quick pictures of just as we were working through the project. It's hard to see here, but if you look closely, you can kind of see that there's some maps imprinted on it. And so we had the students first laser cut their piece of wood out on Baltic birch, like 3mm Baltic birch, laser cut it out. So they had this puzzle piece sort of to work with. And then sometimes students use that as the foundation and glued and attached other things to it. And sometimes they just used it as a base and then built something completely different on top of it. But what we did was I showed them a little trick on how to sort of steal an image of Google Maps for their community area, overlay it onto the piece, and then use the laser to engrave the map. And that gave them some sort of references to geographic points or landmarks or intersections or whatever else might have been relevant within their community area. So that you'll see that on some of the pieces as sort of a starting point. So here's some of the pieces. I'm actually going to go into this on a different page. I'm going to come back to this. I don't mean to tease you with it. This is gluing all the pieces down. It just took a lot. It was a lot of work. I have a team of students that helped me after school. I painted it blue and white for the lake, and then just used liquid nails to basically glue all these things down. And let me scroll down a little bit here. Oh, let me reload this. I'm not sure why that's not loading. So what I'm going to do is just switch back over here. So here are some of the pictures of some of the projects that students did. Some of them are just really, really fascinating. It is kind of the same thing as that you got with the flag mosaic project, where they're not all wonderful. Some of them were kind of like I said, students can kind of sometimes get lazy with stuff, seniors graduating and that kind of thing. But a vast majority of these were really impressive and well thought out. And I can't tell you all the stories because you'd have to kind of read each one, but there's reasons and Well, like the stockyards are the reasons for the pigs that you see up there. And there seems to be some sort of front of it, like an old building or some sort of iconic building or church in that area. There's down by Midway, you get stuff like this. And so the student 3D modeled from scratch the airplane, made this sort of asphalt looking material in this, and put the plane in this barn. I used moss, and like bought moss and glued it onto a 3D printed trunk, I think, to make this tree that you see there. I wanted to highlight this one because this is kind of shows how this all kind of came together in some of the stories. So this one is Riverdale. So if I go back up to the map here, it's located down here. It's this one that you can see on your screen right there. So if you look at the whole map here, it's this one way down at the bottom. And on this map, you can see right there, Riverdale. So what's really cool about this, I'm going to show you what the student wrote about it. Well, here, let me just pull it up and show you. So this is a train track right here going down, sort of like looking like it's going underground. There's a reason for that. This part all here, all the blue stuff you see is all 3D printed. Students designed and 3D printed all these trees in Tinkercad, and then hand painted all of them. And what I'm going to show you is, oops, pull this up here. This page right here is the write-up. So these are all the one pagers that I had the students do. And I'm going to scroll down to, oops, I'm using Mac keyboard commands on a PC, which doesn't go well. So I'm going to go down to Riverdale, and I'm going to just put this on the screen for you to check out and make sure I'm out of the way of. So what I'll kind of highlight is what the student learned about is that this area of Riverdale in 1849, this guy, John Ton, leased 50 acres of land north of Calumet River, and being an abolitionist, operated a station on the Underground Railroad from the site until the Civil War. And so you can see the student talking about it here. Looking at my piece, you see that there's a railroad that just disappears into the distance, representing the Underground Railroad and runaway slaves' path to freedom. In order to create this piece, I used a program called Tinkercad and 3D printer to print one of each tall platform of my piece, so that making an angled railway was possible. And then laser cut the tracks using birch wood and mirrored acrylic. Using markers, I colored the birch wood to represent train tracks more accurately. So I'm just gonna, because I know we're running out of time here, but I'm gonna go back to this picture so you can see. And these are laser cut pieces of mirrored acrylic, and then the wood, the Baltic birch wood that kind of goes across there, and made this whole piece so that it slanted down to give this to help tell the story of the Underground Railroad in that particular area. And then laser cut this piece of wood here, and it's just really, really cool stuff. I'm gonna highlight a couple more before we're done here. I thought this one was interesting to highlight for a particular reason with one of the student that did this. The student that worked on this project is nonverbal. I don't think I heard maybe more than 5 words from the student the whole year that they were in my class. And the student had graduated. The student was a senior, had graduated, and wanted to keep working on this piece. I was really busy, so I wasn't able to pay attention to like everything. But the student came back to my lab after graduation and sat there every single day in the corner by themselves, painting and finishing and working on this. And this is what they came up with. And I thought it was just phenomenal. Really beautiful, like these flowers, all hand painted, everything 3D printed and hand painted, laser cut base. And it was just really inspiring to see a kid put this stuff together. Just really amazing creativity. And let me see, I'll just kind of tie this up with a couple other ones. This is the loop area. And actually you can see, let me pull it down here. You can see up here, that's the Morton Salt logo. I can't remember what the reason was for this, but there must be a lot of ducks over there. There's always little duck feet. This was the loop. And so the student laser cut a bunch of different, like basically laser cut the loop out of different colors of acrylic. And there's a lane one. I'm going to try and show you because it's really, really cool. Oh, wait, here, this is good too. This donut was really neat. So apparently there's some donut shop that's really well known over that area. And so the student laser cut layers of birch plywood and then pink acrylic and then different color acrylic for the sparkle for the sprinkles. And the lane one, let me see if I can find it here. I think I've got it close. Oh, this one's cool too. This building that they did, this church. This one here, I can't remember the total story behind that, but there's lagoons down there. I remember that. Here's the lane one. So this was, this is all laser cut here, the blue, out of translucent blue acrylic. This was all milled, all that stuff there, that wood was used CNC mill to mill out that material, and then 3D printed and painted modeled Lane Tech. That's the school itself. There's a little different view on it, so I thought this one was really cool. And see, I can kind of wrap up here. Some stuff started out like just the color of the whatever filament they had, so they would design and make the stuff, and then would hand paint it, would paint the acrylic. So the color of the hand paint the plastic, the PLA. So it didn't really matter what color it was to start with, although white was easier. I think those are the main ones to highlight. There's so much stuff in here. Let me pull one thing up. I have a little flyover. It's in the album that's available that you can look at, but I'm gonna fly over this for a second. The machines used, yep, I can do that. I can definitely show you that. I just saw that in the chat, sorry. You might hear Marvin Gaye in the background. I was jamming out while I was filming this. Susie Shakes. So something interesting about O'Hare, and somebody asked, a friend of mine asked me about this before the presentation today. Let me see if I can pause it. O'Hare, there's a dinosaur there, and there's apples. So O'Hare, ORD is a reference to being in an orchard. Can't remember the exact name, but that's where ORD comes from. And I think there was something found up there as far as a fossil goes. So the student has a 3D modeled and printed dinosaur, and then like this whole apple orchard thing going on. And then they 3D printed, like, and designed and printed and painted all these cars to represent these different areas. And all these little trees, and everything was all like hand done. So it was really cool. Greg, to answer your question, and then we can go into the Q&A. I know I've been talking too long, so I apologize. In the Old Orchard, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And some of the tools that they're using, these are the CNC mills. They look like this. We use the Inventables X carves. We have 6 of those. And oh, hey, Ron. Ron says it's Orchard Hill. So there's some of the CNC mills. You can see them milling out stuff like this. You can kind of see it, the machine working a little bit. The laser cutters, you see, these are all pictures from inside the lab. I'm going to see if I can find additional pictures. I don't know if I have other pictures like fresh in here that are from the, here's a laser cutter. Here's a student working at one of the laser cutters. We have 4 Epilogue 40 watt lasers. Well, one's a 50 watt, but basically 4 Epilogue lasers And we have about 10 Prusa i3 MK3S printers, 3D printers. We used to have MakerBots, then we switched to Prusa. A bunch of Cameo vinyl cutters and the X carves for the mills. So here's another student working on a laser cutter. Here's another student working on a laser cutter here. Then we have a heat press and some other stuff. These are the vinyl cutters and heat press. And there's some students building some stuff in the lab. So I guess I want to make sure we have time for Q&A.
We have some questions here, Jeff.
Yeah.
What?
And before we have the questions, I'm gonna put the polling. So those people, you need to head out or so, you can run the poll. So we want to have some feedback. So you can give us the feedback. And with that, yeah, Mark, go ahead with the question.
The feedback comes up for me too. I'm going to give myself good ratings.
So, Jeff, what programs or software are students using to 3D model?
Great question. So, for 3D modeling, we use Tinkercad as an introduction, and that's tinkercad.com. We use that as an introduction to 3D modeling. Little kids can use it and adults can use it. It's a very comfortable way to get into 3D modeling. And then we jump into a more enterprise level sketch-based 3D modeling application called Onshape, which is this. And Onshape is, those of you that know like SolidWorks, one of the founders of SolidWorks left and created Onshape. One reason I absolutely love Onshape is that it's completely platform independent. So everything runs on the servers. There's free mobile apps, and it can be run on a Chromebook. So students that don't have a Mac or a PC and they have a Chromebook, they can fully use the software, 100% of it. And Onshape, which was recently bought by PTC, Onshape offers the full entire platform to educators and students for free. So that's what we use for the 3D stuff. We also mess with a program called ZBrush, ZBrush Core Mini, which is a fun way to like kind of model digital clay. And it looks like this ZBrush Core Mini. You can do some funky like models like this using that program. Yeah, ZBrush is cool. We don't have the paid version. The students kind of mess around with it, but we spend most of our time doing sketch-based 3D modeling, like Onshape.
Next question. I think you'd like this one. I would like to teach and learn. Could you please let me know? Maybe your own story of how you became a teacher is.
I'll see if I can do it very quickly. I was in industry, wanted to do something different. I was an engineer at Motorola, a software engineer at Motorola. I did my undergrad in computer science engineering at Ohio State, and then was at a few internet consulting companies, and just kind of, I was in the middle of that .com burst around 2000, and I just wanted to do something that felt, for me, I just wanted to do something that felt like I had, I don't know, like more meaning or be more involved in stuff. And a couple people had said they thought I might be a good teacher, and so I found out about this program called, it's still available. It's called New Teach. It's a different format now, but it's called NU Teach at Northwestern. At the time, it was called the GATE program, Golden Apple Teacher Education Program. And it was a alternative certification program that focused on getting teachers from industry into education. And it was scholarship based, got you most of a master's degree. And so I figured give it a shot. And if it is terrible, then I'll go back to industry. And so it was basically just sweat equity because it wasn't going to cost anything. And so I did that program through Northwestern, did most of a master's degree there. Through that, I got my alternative teaching certification. And then I was certified to teach math and computer science, and then ended up getting my full certification. And ended up going on and doing national board certification, which is like a master teacher level certification in K-12. Ended up going and doing a separate master's in educational leadership, and been doing that ever since. So I joke that I have a type 75, which is an administrative license, but I don't tell many people about it because I don't want to be an administrator. I just want to keep teaching.
Now, someone asked very early on, and I'm not sure about this question, but is someone going to display a SOL terminal computer? And any idea?
Is somebody going to do what?
A SOL, SOL terminal computer? Is that, well, okay.
I don't know what that is. I do have we do have a trash 80 in our lab though. A TRS 80, if anybody remembers that.
I heard about it. Do your students use a rubric, not the cube?
A rubric cube?
No, do you use rubrics, and what helps you communicate the expectations best?
We do generally use a rubric, and so this would be a much longer conversation, but the short of it is that we've switched to, in most of our computer science classes, we've switched to mastery level education or assessment or standards-based assessment, so that basically it focuses on comprehension and not on compliance. So are you able to demonstrate mastery of that skill or that standard or that concept? And if so, then you get full credit for it. So your grade represents your understanding of the content. That way, it's not about being late. Sometimes it takes kids longer to do things than other kids, and so it's less focused on like compliance and did you do this and it's this many points, and if you clean my room you get extra credit, or go to the school play and you get extra credit. We get away from all of that and just focus on how do we help the student with feedback, and how do we get them to, how do they demonstrate mastery to us? And sometimes that's through a project they make. Sometimes that's through a conversation. Sometimes it's through discussion. Sometimes it's through, it can be through all kinds of ways, as long as the student's able to demonstrate mastery. Okay, so
And for a final question, how have you been managing using the makerspace with remote learning?
Very difficultly. What we've been doing is, what I tell my students about a lot is, I can go here to a more interesting background screen, or here. I'm up in the cupola, by the way, in the space station. What we tell our students is the hardest part of doing this kind of work, digital design and digital fabrication, the hard part is the design. The hard part is the creativity part, and trial and error, and learning how to create the digital designs that you need to be able to send to the machines. The easy part is pressing go. Telling a 3D printer to 3D print something is not the hard part of 3D modeling something. It's the 3D modeling part. It's fun. It's really fun. And it's a very important part of the iterative process of trying out what you designed and then realizing that changes need to be made. So not having that iteration there has been difficult. But what we're doing is we're largely focusing on the digital design part, so that if and when we get back in the lab, then we can go and make those things. With one of the projects, the laser cutter, like introductory laser cutter project, I went into the lab and laser cut, Amy did this too with her students, but we went into the lab and laser cut all of our students' projects for them, and then sat outside in the cold. I have like a black van, so I was like sitting in my van handing out projects, and realized that probably didn't look very good, but giving the students their laser cutter projects, if they could come and get them, and if not, I could either drive them to them or send them, or figure out an alternative way. So I haven't been able to pull off doing that for the 3D printer or the CNC mill, because it's a lot more work, and babysitting the machines, and dealing with errors and problems, to be able to pull that off for 150 students. So it's been difficult, but that's kind of what we've been going with. So focusing on the digital side, the design side, with the idea that, let's say they graduate or they're at Lane next year, they can take those files, those designs they did, and they can go to any makerspace, a school makerspace at a university, whatever it is, or a local hackerspace, and they could actually make the things. So they're not the non-proprietary digital format files. I hope that answers it.
Okay,
yes,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for the wonderful presentation. Very interesting and certainly very creative, so of using computer science. So thank you very much for that. So I'm going to share my screen, and then Mark will talk about our future presentations. So let me just share my screen here.
Thank you very much, by the way. Thanks for everybody for attending and listening. I hope it was informative.
Yes, definitely. It certainly was.
Thanks,
Okay,
Jeff.
so Mark, go ahead and
Right. Okay, so as a reminder,
we don't see this slide.
yeah. But remember that in the next 2 months, we have two very different programs. One is on, just to make it short, is on construction automation. Could it be the Terminator at your construction site or something more useful? That's next month, April 17th. I'm sorry, March 17th with Volker Mueller. And April 21st, there's Melissa Rombelay, and that's on natural language processing and computational creativity, which I know I'm going to find very interesting. I find all these talks really interesting. And I think the great thing about everyone, if you keep coming to our presentations, you're going to see something that you might find really interesting, somewhat interesting, or the next big thing, or something you just want to be stay involved with in some way. So I think that's, as I sent out a message once, I was amazed at how many future type things I had found out at these ACM meetings 10 years before they became mainstream, whether it was Google, believe it or not, that was 1999, and GPU computing, that was in 2006, and a variety of other topics. So if you stay with us, you'll pick up a lot of interesting information that you never thought about. Alvin?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And also as well, I want to add another future presentation. Actually, it's going to be next Wednesday, February the 24th. And we're very glad to have this speaker. So this speaker is, I can go to the next slide here, is Chuck Eastham. So he is a distinguished lecturer of the IEEE Computer Society. So this is a IEEE Computer Society Chicago chapter talk. But of course, ACM members and Mid-America Club members are welcome to attend. It's not going to be an official ACM Chicago talk, but you're welcome to attend this. And it's on quantum computing. So you might have heard about, quantum computing and, how quantum computers were talked about, in the lab or so, like over 15 years ago or so. But Chuck's going to talk about in terms of what's the current status right now, and how quantum computing is, and is it ready to take over classical computing, and what particular problems that quantum computers can solve. So this is really, really interesting because this is going to be the future of computing, because we've already getting to a point that we are approaching the limit of Moore's law and classical computers. So please come and join us for this wonderful event. And details and registration, you can see there, will also be posted as well as the other presentations that Mark mentioned about. They will be sent to you in a follow-up email after this event, as well as the link to the recording, and as well as the link to the slides that we have here for the introduction. And then the recording will be made available on our YouTube channel. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for spending your evening with us tonight. On behalf of ACM Chicago, Mid-America IT Connect Club, as well as ACM Chicago and IEEE Computer Society Chicago, thank you all for joining this evening. Hope to be able to see you at some of the other events that will be coming in March, or the one that we have for Wednesday, February the 24th, so next Wednesday. And stay healthy, stay safe, and stay warm out there. So thank you very much. Have a very good evening. And thank you, Jeff, again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
And if you have any future, for our future, if you have any other speakers that can come to our events or so to talk, or even you yourself, want to speak, send us an email. So vicechair@chicagoacm.org or chair@chicagoacm.org. We welcome, lots of different, people to come and speak on various different topics. So yeah, think about it. See if anybody that you may know wants to present, because now we're virtual, so it doesn't have to be, a person locally in Chicago. So whoever you can think of, or if yourself wants to be able to talk about what you're doing, please send us an email. All right, thank you. Have a good evening. Bye, folks.
Do you guys need me to stick around for anything, or to follow up, or do you want me to jump off?
No, we're done.
Okay, have a good evening.
Yeah, you too, Dan. Thank you very much.
You
Again, really
too.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
again.
you very much.
All right.
Okay, take care.